Hi everyone, I'm back with this new real estate video just for you. And I know many of you are thinking, Jess, where have you been? I have been letting you down. I do apologize. But in my defense, the real estate market has been a frenzy. There is so much going on right now between this pandemic that we're going through and elections around the corner. There's a lot I need to update you on. And my dog is freaking out right now. I got a puppy if you want to see him. New member of the family. Meet Samba. Say hi, Samba. It's my baby Sambusu. Say hi, Samba. So you might have seen some of the headlines out there, mortgage rates falling as home prices rise, housing bubbles in certain cities, and 2020 just breaking the real estate market. But what does it all mean? Is it a good time to buy then or not? Well, stick with me because in this video, I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about the real estate market so far this 2020. My name is Jessica Caro, your North Jersey real estate agent, and this is your monthly real estate update. And before I forget, don't you forget to click that big red subscribe button right down there. It should be right underneath, and it takes you 0.0001 second or less. And there's also a little like button, a little thumbs up, and it helps me tremendously. You can do those two things or even just one. I'll be grateful. Thank you so much, and stick with me. Now we're here in the East Coast, so some of you may be thinking, well, what about New York City? I've heard prices are going down in New York City. Well, look, that might be so in Manhattan, but either way, your HOA fees would be astronomically high as it is, and chances are you're gonna buy a condo because logistically speaking, there aren't that many one-family houses or even multifamilies for that matter. And though it may be true that the rental inventory has skyrocketed tremendously, I mean, it makes sense. Millennials who move back home with their families because they can't afford rent anymore, or they just don't wanna pay a ton of rent to stay in a city that doesn't even have events anymore. You can't even go to a concert. You can't even go to the bar. I mean, you can, but you have to sit outside or now 25% inside, and God knows when we're going to close. And well, I'm veering off topic. But this hasn't necessarily been the case for the boroughs such as Brooklyn, Queens, or even on this side of the Hudson here in Jersey City and Hoboken. A New York Times article from just 2 weeks ago showed that while Manhattan's real estate prices continue to drop, Brooklyn sold 735 homes in August, which was a 38.7% increase from the same month last year.
And according to Zillow, Jersey City home values have gone up 3.1% over the past year. And Zillow predicts they will rise 4.6% within the next year.
Okay, so let's begin with a quick summary of the real estate market over the last few years to give you a little more context and break things down for you a bit more. From 2004 to 2007, real estate went through an unprecedented period of growth. It was driven primarily by really cheap mortgage loans with no money down, and basically anybody was able to get them. Borrowers barely had to show any proof of actually being able to pay these loans off. And so eventually people started not paying those loans because they really couldn't afford some of the properties that they were buying. By this point, real estate prices had been driven so high that no one wanted to buy real estate anymore, and the market had nowhere else to go but down. Once home prices started lowering, those who owed more on their home than what the home was actually worth just stopped making the payments. And this caused a wave of foreclosures and home prices dropped even more. In response to this, the federal government started bailing out banks and lowering interest rates in an effort to boost up the economy, and it worked. But between 2011 to 2019, real estate made a swift comeback. And now we have surpassed the previous all-time highs. But then COVID happened, and well, things got crazy. In March, pretty much our entire economy shut down. The stock market fell about 40% in just 1 month, and you would think the real estate market would follow, but the feds and the government stepped in and created a massive stimulus package. They then lowered the federal funds interest rates to pretty much 0% to boost up the economy. And that just means that getting a mortgage now is the cheapest it's ever been in history. And simultaneously, this has also created the most competitive market I've seen so far. Okay, so now let's talk about what's going on in the real estate market today, as in right now. And if you haven't already done this, please take a quick second to click that like button right there. It's that little blue one with the little thumbs up and that big rectangular red thing like right about here or here or here. I'd really appreciate it. And thanks for sticking with me. Let's get to it. So first, let's go over why low mortgage rates are a good thing. Let's use an example as if you wanted to buy a house that costs $300K. Very unrealistic price budget in North Jersey, New York area, but let's just pretend you want to buy a house that costs $300K. And let's say your rate is a 6%. If you were to buy that property with a 6% interest rate, your mortgage payments would be about $1,800 a month. But instead, if you were to buy that house with a 2.9% interest rate, your monthly payments would jump down to under $1,300 a month. So this means that if your monthly budget is $1,800 for your mortgage, instead of having a cap of $300,000 to look for homes, you will now be able to afford up to $435,000 for a property, which would get you a much nicer property and maybe a great backyard where you can quarantine for the rest of your life. So these low mortgage rates have incentivized a lot of buyers to go out there and start looking for property. Perhaps these were people who weren't thinking of looking for another 5 years, but because of the low mortgage rates and because of COVID and everything changing, those plans were moved up. Young couples and boomers are also deciding to leave the city sooner. You know, maybe they were planning to purchase a home with more land and more space, and those plans got moved up, and other people just want to broaden their portfolios and maybe move away from stocks after what happened with the 40% drop in 1 month. So whatever the case may be, there is an influx of buyers out there and not nearly enough inventory for the demand right now. Now, another reason that could be driving out buyers, other than the astronomically low mortgage rates, is the preparation for inflation. Inflation is when the value of our currency goes down as more of it gets printed into circulation. And no surprise here, we are spitting out a lot of money with everything going on right now. Eventually, this will devalue our currency, and our money in the future is going to be worth a lot less than it is today. Well, it just so happens that real estate could be a great place for you to store your money during inflation, since history in this country has shown that home prices have risen alongside inflation. So given this, people think that it's best to buy something right away and invest your money as quickly as possible before inflation eats away at the value of your money, which would just sit in the bank. So if there is a 3% inflation every single year, then in theory, your property would be going up 3% as well. So from that perspective, it really makes sense to purchase now if you're trying to protect your money from inflation in the future. And locking in a low 30-year fixed rate is strongly encouraged. However, the problem you're probably going to have is finding the right investment property, because everything is selling above asking price or going into bidding wars because there's just not enough inventory out there and way more buyers to compete with. But if you're looking for a home for yourself, for your family, and you're not necessarily interested in having it be an investment property or a rental property, then now might be a great time to look. If you can get the right property at the right price. Just remember that the same way you went and got pre-approved and how easy it was and what a low rate you got, so did a lot of other people. And so the reality is you might have a hard time actually getting an offer accepted. So some of you might be asking, well, Jess, what about those people who say that the prices will go down once the forbearance loans and the government assistance is run out? It's highly unlikely that a wave of foreclosures is going to happen again unless housing prices drop by about 30%, leaving a portion of those mortgages underwater and then therefore subject to foreclosing. When a home is foreclosed, it basically means the homeowner stopped making payments to the bank. And so the bank has to foreclose on the property in order to recoup the loan. But if you owe $100K and your house is worth $150, then there's no reason for you to stop paying your loan. You could just sell it and walk away with your profit. So even though there are forbearances, it's highly unlikely that the homeowner will just stop paying the mortgages. It's also unlikely that everyone will sell at the same time and foreclose on their properties all at the same time, causing a massive crash the way it happened in 2008. But I guess the risk is there. So that's it, guys. My market update for 2020 so far with all this crazy stuff that's going on. I really hope I was able to inform you properly. If you have any questions at all, or if you want to leave a comment, please feel free to leave a comment below. I'm happy to help you with any questions you have, or if you want to debate some of the things that I discussed here. I'm all for it and very happy to get compliments. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time.